If you're looking to sell a home here in the state of Maryland and you're planning on leaving, you better watch this video in full before you do so. I'm Weston Ben with Winning Edge Real Estate. I'm here with one of my favorite people in the world, Miss Erica Madden, Esquire.
I'm Erica Madden. I am an attorney with Universal Title. Been doing this for about 20 years, so I hope I know my stuff. We wanted to discuss the non-resident withholding, which is something that we encounter quite frequently in the transfer of property.
Yeah, and I say probably 90% of people out there don't even know this exists, and the 10% of people that do know exists are people like us, and most people, and even half those people still don't even know that exists.
Right.
And this is something that's really important because it's a lot of money that can be taken away.
Absolutely. If you are not a resident of the state of Maryland, and I'll go through that in a minute, closing, the title company is instructed by the state to collect. It has gone up now to 8.75% of the net proceeds from an individual. If it is an entity, it's 8.25%. So an entity like an LLC, corporation, things like that are non-Maryland residents.
So even investment properties can get hit with this, renovations, such like that.
Yes, absolutely. And that's actually who, in essence, actually kind of gets hit more, because there are some exemptions that take place. Military, there's an exemption for military, but you do have to apply for these exemptions. So if you have lived in the actual property being sold for two of the last 5 years, if, let's say, we were, both on title together, you're a Pennsylvania resident, I'm Maryland, but I only had you on title for estate planning purposes, and you won't be getting any of the proceeds. You would file for an exemption from your portion. So there are exemptions you can file with the state. They do ask that be done 21 days before closing. So the state does need at least 21 days to allow for the exemption. That, in essence, what determines if you are a non-resident of Maryland is that if SDAT, or the State Department of Assessment and Taxation, has that your mailing address is not in the state of Maryland, then that is when we are triggered as the title company to collect that money. And so, that's the kind of the points on it. But one of the other things I wanted to point out is that a lot of people, and you will hear it referred to as a penalty for out-of-state residents, that Maryland's going to penalize you if you move out of the state.
We jokingly call it your Maryland going away tax.
Right. What it is actually, I like to describe it more of an escrow that the state holds, because the intent behind it is you've moved out of Maryland. You're now not going to file Maryland income taxes this year because you don't live here. Why would you? And so therefore the state says, well, but we want our capital gains that we're entitled to. And so the only way we can ensure that we are going to get that is to have the title company collect this kind of high amount.
I never thought about it that way.
And, so that we can get it. And then the other part of it is, though, that if it is collected, so you don't, let's say you don't file for the exemption. Or you don't qualify for the exemption. And we have to collect it 60 days after closing. So you don't have to wait until January 2027. You can do it 60 days after closing. You can file to receive some of that money back. Or in essence, file your 2026 Maryland tax return 60 days after closing.
Gotcha. So even if, for lack of better terms, you're selling the home, you have a realtor selling home, or even if you're selling for sale by owner and you didn't realize until you got the settlement table going, why is there a $15,000 tax going to the state of Maryland? 60 days after that, you can still apply for the exemption. It's just not a guarantee that you'll get the full amount back if you did it sooner, because it's just like with taxes. Once the government has your taxes, it's really hard to get it back.
And they do still have to do the calculation. I mean, the state is going to be entitled to something. They may not be entitled to the entire 8.75%, but so it's not, it's not that they took $15,000, you're going to get $15,000 back. You may get $5,000 back, but anything is better than
better than nothing at
all of that huge amount being taken. So
And now let me see your side. I know I had a couple of questions.
Yeah,
I think you've already not.
Sorry.
So no, this is why I love talking to you. So, but let me ask you this, because we've had this come across as well, and some people may not be aware as well. Even if someone passes away and they are primary residence out of state and they file probate in a different state, that estate still has to pay the out of state residence tax. If that's
it's dependent on, to my understanding, it is dependent on the person who is deceased, where they resided at their death.
Yes.
So if they were in Maryland in this property in their death when they died, then there would not be anything collected. If
Yeah.
they were in Texas and that's where the estate's opened then because they were a Texas resident,
Yeah.
then yes, the non-resident withholding
Yeah.
applies.
And then that's a conversation we would have to have because we've done that before where we may have to open an estate in Maryland to make sure you get out of that or find a different alternative.
Right.
Because at the end of the day here, if we're just doing quick math on that, if you're getting $100,000 as settlement, that's somewhere between $8,200 and almost $9,000 that's
Right.
getting taken from you.
Right.
And if we can save you some money, that's something that's really, really important. How do we do that? So, and then I know you brought up several great things there, so I'm really glad you did because you already knocked out so many of my questions I had. So, so I guess what kind of paperwork needs to be filed, and what I know you already said what time frames, but what
Right.
paperwork and what time frames that need to be done upon ratifying a contract.
Okay, so well, it would be at the time that the contract is ratified. So I always say this should be done. You can collect some of the information prior to the contract, but ultimately, when you're making filing with the state, it would be after contract because in order to make the application for the exemption, you need the actual application, which can be pulled online, or you reach out to Weston and he can send it to you.
We have it saved.
Yeah. An Alta settlement statement from the title company. So ultimately, once the contract is submitted to the title company handling the transaction, you would just tell them what is the estimated payoff amount, what are some of the closing costs, so that we can put something together. And then the third component that the state wants with that application is the actual contract. And then again, you have to wait 21 days. So you're not going to take a cash offer closing in a week.
No.
Because that's not going to come in time.
And now let me ask you this, because I know this happened a few times here. Is it possible where if everything's submitted a little too late, for lack of better terms, or what time are you able to escrow some of that money after the fact to at least let it go through, or do you have to pay that at settlement at that time?
To be honest with you, I'm going to go with the answer of not escrowing. And the reason that I say that the not escrow is because we have to get the deed on record.
Yes.
So there's timelines for us getting the deed on record. So if I agree to escrow and now it's still another 10 days, I've delayed the deed getting on record 10 days, which is a whole other issue in itself. So technically we do collect that money then. And we do have to send it to the state, but that's where, as I said, 60 days after closing, then they can file to get that money back.
Yeah. And then from my understanding is that because the title company, you're the one responsible for collecting it. If you do not collect it, then you're responsible for it. So by default, you're going to have it on there no
We
matter
have
what.
to collect it. Otherwise, we're going to get penalized. I mean, we're still going to call the seller up. We didn't
Yes.
and ask for that money. But yes, ultimately, because we have to get that deed on record, we are on the hook.
Yeah. So making sure everything's done properly from second one is critical because at the end of the day, you're not going to pay the money for it.
Right.
You're going to make sure that it gets taken
it's
care
their
of.
taxes. So.
Yes, it's not yours.
I'm not in the business of paying other people's taxes.
Me either.
Yeah.
So I guess the kind of last question I have for you here is because you pretty much knocked out every single question I was going to have.
Before you ask that, I did want to say, just to get back, because it is something that I do see often.
Yes.
Back to the scenario of the two people on title or multiple people on title.
Yes.
It's just remembering that how it's collected is, again, back to the example of you're Pennsylvania, I'm Maryland. If you are getting proceeds, so you are getting, 50% of the proceeds in this case, then it's 8.75% of half of the net. Okay. So it's just your half is taxed, mine is not. So that's one of the things, but it's a lot of times people don't realize that's what the kind of the surprises at closing happens, because SDAT is going to tell us my name or both of our names, but it may have the mailing address as the Maryland because of my name, not realizing that you who are also on title, and this occurs a lot of times with siblings, things like that, where you also being on title are not a Maryland resident. Now you come to closing, you show me your driver's license. I ask you if you've lived in the property to the last 5 years. Yes. You tell me no. Now I have to collect. Yes. And that's where sometimes the shock can happen. Yes. So be aware of that as well.
Yeah. So if we're going back to that example, just saying that you're getting $10,000 sell, make math easy. So the one half they're getting taxed 8.75% on their 5,000.
5,000. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So beautiful. So I guess the last question is for you here. How does the right agent, someone such as Winning Edge Real Estate, how's the right agent and more importantly the title company make that smoother for someone to make sure that they have the best opportunity to get that full exemption? If not a minimum partial exemption, but more likely a full exemption.
I think the important thing, both from a seller's perspective, is to let you know, if you're the agent,
Yes.
that I'm not in Maryland. So I'm not a Maryland resident, and therefore then we can do the research. What does SDAT say? What does it have as the Maryland? We're going to ask the question, did you live there 2 of the last 5 years? I think some of the basic things to just kind of make it so that the state of Maryland does not realize that you are not in Maryland anymore would be keep your don't change your driver's license over. I know you want to do it immediately, but if you still have this house in Maryland, sell it before you change your
Yes.
driver's license over. Same thing with if you're filing taxes. So again, let's say you've moved to, I don't know, Virginia. And now you're going to file taxes in Virginia, in the state of Virginia. Well, now the state of Virginia is going to notify the state of Maryland that you are now a resident of the state of Virginia. Same thing, your federal income taxes. So those are some of the things we just need to notify. If we can see it in advance, you lived there 2 of the last 5 years, you can file for the exemption, and we can do that with plenty of time before closing. So we're not rushing. There's no surprises.
Perfect. I love it. Well, I guess if anyone has any questions, because you're the attorney, you know better than I do. I should know how to put the paperwork together. So if anyone has any questions, how do they get in touch with you?
Call the office and or you can email emadden@universaltitle.com. And then, but you can always just, as part of the winning team, you can always just reach out to Winning Edge and they can get a hold of me as well.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, I appreciate as always, Erica. And if you have any other questions, contact Miss Erica here. She's going to be the expert. And if you are looking to sell your home here in Maryland before you head on out of state and you plan to be an out of state resident, give us a call. Let's make it a smooth, easy transaction and make it a great day.